evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Rush Roundtable, a very live episode 104, where we will be discussing songs we prefer live over their studio version. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Rush Roundtable. Today, we're talking about live versions of songs that we prefer to the studio version of that song. So, how this is going to work is we're going to go around the roundtable 5 times. Each one of us has chosen 5 songs that we prefer the live version of. And then we're going to give you a brief reason why we prefer that. But before we get into the panelists, we actually polled our Twitter followers. So out here on the Twitter machine, we have about 8 or 9 answers. And I'm going to read them off real quick before we get into our choices. So Luke says 2112 from Different Stages. Prefers the 2112 version of Different Stages. Jeff says all of them are better live. Robert says Xanadu off Exit Stage Left. AM says Bravado off Different Stages. Actually, they said different strings. I think they meant different stages. KFFH says Territories from A Show of Hands. There's also a live version of Mystic Rhythms and Chronicles that I like more than the studio version. Babylon 5 Geek says Marathon and Mission from the Hold Your Fire tour captured on A Show of Hands. Brian says Marathon on A Show of Hands was the first that popped into my head. I'd also throw in Closer to the Heart on Different Stages and maybe Bytor and the Snowdog from Exit Stage Left. And Brian also adds Headlong Flight with the String Ensemble, so from Clockwork Angels Live. So those are some good answers. And we have 30 more, perhaps, maybe. There might be some overlap. We'll see. So we're going to start with Paul. Go ahead, your first one.
Well, my first one, it's a great song. It's YYZ. Always a great song to hear live. But my personal favorite version is from Rush in Rio. Just hearing the crowd just really singing to an instrumental song just kind of really blows it out of the water. And I love that version. Don't get me wrong, I love the studio version, but I like the live versions better. They just kind of it's more a better sound, I guess. It just gets the crowd right into it, right? So, yep, that's my first one.
So do you have an alternate Twitter username that you go by Jeff or?
Who, me?
Yeah, like the guy who was just.
I'm not on Twitter, so no, it's not me.
That's a good pick. Yeah, that's really awesome how the crowd gets into that and everything too. So my first pick is what I think is the most obvious choice is Xanadu from Exit Stage Left. I mean, what else can you say? I just love this version of Xanadu. Sounds amazing, and I'm really not going to say much more because I think we all can probably agree that that's one of our favorites and a favorite of the Rush community. So we won't waste any time. We'll let Rob go ahead.
All right, my first is Between the Wheels from R30. I just like the whole vibe of that tune is just that much heavier. As is when you go see Rush play these tunes live, there's always a different energy when they do it live. Ged sound amazing. His voice is like stellar. And Alex really puts the gas pedal down on that one too. He really kind of emphasizes, guitar is in this song. So I just felt that kind of thing coming off of him while he performed it. So that's my first one.
Yeah, they described it as Geddy introduced it as one they pull out of the vault on R30. So yeah. And then they played that quite a bit after R30, right? So yeah, really good choice. Cool. And yeah, guys, feel free to add your 2 cents to others' choices throughout here. So Ralph, go ahead.
Start with the duplicate, Xanadu from Exit Stage Left. They have a lot of live versions, but that was the album that got me into Rush, so a little nostalgia there, and it's just a great version.
Totally rocks.
Okay.
It's
Omar.
nice and long too, nice and long, and it's paced out nicely. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the pacing of that too, when they did it on that live recording, is like just they took more time. It just seemed like they really paced it out a different way than previous recordings, live recordings.
Yeah. Awesome version. All right, Omar.
Yeah, so I'll just preamble a little bit how I came to my choices. Not only did I want to pick my favorite live version of a studio song, but also I tried to pick the best live version of the song. I tried to make it both, not just my favorite, but which I thought was the best live version. So that being said, my first choice is Xanadu from Exit Stage Left. I just put that as number one on my list because I figured I wouldn't be the only one, but I just think that if you listen to the version from, the studio version from Farewell to Kings, and just the progression of that song until the way they composed it or rearranged it in Exit Stage Left, and I actually went back and listened to previous tours of them playing it, and even the Permanent Waves version is almost the same as this version, almost. I think they were like still working it out till they finally came to the best version of that song in the Moving Pictures tour. So Xanadu from Exit Stage Left, the bomb.
Yep. Can't beat it. All right, Nick, Xanadu from Exit Stage Left?
No, actually not at all. I actually like the R30 version better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think the R30 version is superior. I really do. I think, granted, I do think the X Stage Left version is good, but I actually, I omitted the R30, since we keep talking about X Stage Left, I'm leaving, or Xanadu, I'm leaving that off my list. I just want to preface this by saying that I've come on Roundtable multiple times and saying that I feel very strongly about most of their songs sounding better in some live form. So I tried to come up with songs that I truly won't listen, like I almost won't listen to non-live. So the first one I'm gonna go with is Mystic Rhythms from R30. I think I love Alex's guitar on R30 and Mystic Rhythm. It's so much better than the recorded version. It's so much better. I love how it sounds. I love how Geddy's, even though Geddy's voice isn't quite as, I guess, high pitch at this time in his career, I love how Geddy's voice sounds on it. I love how tropical. It just makes me think of being on an island somewhere in the evening, watching the sunset with the palm trees and the mountains. And I love it. That's my first.
I think Geddy's voice is more velvety during this time.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to Nick's point about him preferring the live version, a lot of live versions, this whole topic was kind of built around you saying that on multiple roundtables over the last number of months. So, but a fun topic nonetheless. So let's go through a second time. Paul, go ahead.
My next choice is a bit of a sentimental one. My first Rush concert was for the Time Machine tour. And, the opening song of that tour was Spirit of Radio. So to me, Spirit of Radio, the Time Machine tour is my favorite version of that song. First time seeing the show, and all of a sudden you hear that opening riff, that, it just, just sends chills down my spine right now, just thinking about it. Right. So that's my personal version that I like the best of Spirit.
I was 10 rows back at that concert.
Which I was in Toronto, but yeah, I was,
the record one. So I know exactly what you mean.
Oh, in Cleveland? Nice.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly what you mean with that chills. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was going to say something else, but I'll save that for later. I'll piggyback off of Paul. I'll go with a different one from the Time Machine tour, and that's Presto. Of course, the title track from Presto. I don't think people realize how meaningful that was in terms of Rush's career, because it was the first time that Presto was done live in their career on Time Machine. So you got to think, a title track, it's a popular track from that album. It's the first time it was ever done live. I love the, acoustic-y intro that Alex plays. Of course, he plays on his Les Paul, but the acoustic style intro. So much heart in this song. It just sounds so good live. There is a video on YouTube. It's Time Stand Still and Presto. Someone uploaded both of them in like super high quality, so you don't have to pop in the DVD or whatever. I was listening to that earlier, preparing for this, and it just takes me back to my very first Rush show, which also was a Time Machine tour. I just had this vivid memory of Alex coming out to center stage and just like playing that fantastic guitar solo, which sounds phenomenal live as well. So, yeah, I just love Presto. I prefer the live Presto version from the Time Machine tour to the studio version slightly, but I prefer that live version. Rob, number 2.
Number 2, I went with Resist from Different Stages. And I got to see it played, of course, on that tour at Jones Beach about a week or so after my birthday. It was summertime, outside, hearing the tune, full band. So I really, really enjoyed that. That was a great memory to see that tour and hear that song as a full band rather than just like the acoustic version that they went to later on. So it was kind of like a special moment because I only saw that tour, and then the next tour after that was Vapor Trails. So, of course, and I think at that point I don't think they played it acoustic at that point, but it was just great to hear that song as a full-on band tune. So that's my second choice.
They brought it back acoustically on R30. I definitely know that. I totally forgot about Resist, man. I didn't even. That could be that one just completely didn't cross my mind for whatever reason, but that's a great pick.
It was number 6 on my list. Yeah.
All right, Ralph. Well, what's your number 2?
I think Luke. We said from the Twitter poll. I'm going with 2112 from Different Stages. Test Echo. The first time they played the entire song live, it was like one of the most vivid memories I have from ever seeing a concert. So and then awesome, just live, and the power of that live is just amazing.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Of course, I was 3, 4. Nick
It's a
was
great
probably
imagination for a 3-year-old.
Nick was probably 5. Yeah, right.
I was like 5 or 6. Yeah.
My wife was with me there at that show, and she was sitting down, and I was rocking out too.
Did she understand the magnitude of what was happening at that point?
She's like, I'm not with him.
I don't know him. Sweet. Good pick. Omar, number 2.
Yeah, so I originally had this number 5 on my list, but since Ryan mentioned it, I'm going to piggyback on him. I actually also have Presto from the Time Machine tour. I have a video on my channel where I list my favorite song from each album, and currently Presto is my favorite song off of Presto. I think in the live version, I was going to verify this and I forgot to do it, but in that version, the live version from the Time Machine tour, I think they added another chorus with a higher key, and
I think that's right.
I hear that. When I heard that, it kind of triggered like emotions in me. Like it became a very emotional song and like a triumphant song because of that little change that they put. I'm pretty sure they did do that. It just brought the song to another level, and the fact that they never played it live and they brought it into the Time Machine tour is such a grand sounding song. And the guitar solo that Alex does is beautiful as well. So that's my number 2 pick for a better version live than studio. Presto from Time Machine.
Yep. Fantastic. All right, Nick.
All right, so I'm going from bottom up, I guess, kind of. Although I don't know if I would necessarily put these in this exact order, but next one I'm going with is a bit of a deep cut. I'm going with Limbo from the Molson show that I think was a bonus on the R40 tour DVD. I've only ever watched it on YouTube. But from the Molson show, I love Limbo. I love Limbo to begin with. It might be my favorite. Well, Villa's still my favorite Rush instrumental. Let's be real, but Limbo's pretty cool. I love Limbo though. I do. I know it gets a lot. There's some fans like it's just pieces of song, whatever. They still wrote it, so yeah. Limbo from the Molson though, so heavy, and I love the I love Getty's vocals on it, and just. It's just real, like, it's real good.
That's the 1997 show, wasn't it?
Yep. That's
yeah,
the
June 30th, 97. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about different different stages, and it's kind of disappointing that I actually really like Virtuality on that as well, and Half the World is really good on that. All three of those songs are fantastic. They're not on the different stages. They never made on the CD though. Which is such a disappointment to me.
And there's no DVD for it either.
And there's no, there's like,
just the bonus. I don't. You might be right. It might have been R40, but there's some bonus footage on one of the recent DVDs with that. It just never was a different stages DVD.
Yeah, it's a disappointment. You can watch it on YouTube, but I don't know. Yeah.
So Nick, they wrote it, so it must be good, right?
Yeah, exactly. 99% of everything they wrote was amazing.
It's nice they did that.
Except for...
We know what was bad.
Oh, man.
I'm not going to say.
Go back and watch the first 99 episodes of Rush Roundtable.
Excuse me.
Superconductor. All right. Paul, go ahead. Number 3.
Number 3, Closer to the Heart. It's always a fan favorite at concerts. My personal favorite version is Different Stages. Different Stages overall is one of probably my favorite live albums, to the point where I got the logo tattooed on my arm, part of my sleeve. But I don't know, like I can hear a song, a different version, but in my head I'm thinking the Different Stages version for some reason. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That song just stuck out to me. For me, it's a crowd favorite. You know, after a while, I honestly I get tired of hearing it. But if I hear that version, I'll listen to it. No problem. No questions asked. Just the way the boys just kind of, they finish the song and then they get into like a little instrumental, about 1 minute and a half section. It's just them having fun, and just it encompasses what Rush is about. Just 3 boys having fun on stage, and just everybody just loving the tune.
Good pick. All right. For my number 3, I'm going to give you a twofer. Because they've always been grouped in my head, and that's I'm a cheater, yeah. The Enemy Within and The Weapon from Grace Under Pressure, just because they're back to back, and Fear trilogy. And I didn't include Witch Hunt because that was played so many more times after the fact. These two were only played live up until the mid '80s, not played after that. I just love the goofing off during The Enemy Within. Getty's, when he sings Suspicious Looking Stranger, he's going like this, like with his eyes, and Alex is coming up behind him and just messing with him. And the Count Floyd intro and The Weapon, it just so adds to, like, just the sound quality is fantastic, but both of these songs really just come to life live. The atmosphere live, just watching it or listening to it. I can listen to those 2 songs like just in the car or whatever, and I can see what's happening like on the DVD. Like they're just so well done. And I think one of the first Rush DVDs that I ever watched was The Grace Under Pressure, and these were 2 of the standouts for me. So I just had to include them together. Love them both. Rob?
Nice. All right, number 3. I chose Circumstances off of Snakes and Arrows. And I just like the lower tunings. It just kind of makes the tune a little bit more modernized when they do that. And of course, it enables Getty to sing the song. So I just like that version quite a bit, just because it feels heavier too, Pretty much like Circumstances can be heavy, but it just sounds so much more potent, with the lower tuning. They drop the keys down a couple to, again, to enable Get to do his thing, and then Alex, just more guitar, just really pounding you with guitar. I love it. It's number 3.
I'm actually wearing that shirt from that tour.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, did anyone else kind of get the feel that during Snakes and Arrows they played everything a little slower.
Yeah.
Like
A
everything
little slower, a little tuned down.
Limelight
Yeah.
definitely was like really slow.
Yeah.
I thought.
Even Animate was really slow too.
But some of the they didn't play Animate on Snakes and
Oh,
Arrows.
they didn't?
Anime
Yeah.
was R30, but yeah,
Arthur,
he's right.
Arthur, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It was slowed
that's
down.
okay.
Yeah.
I
But no,
just saw someone.
yeah.
Yeah, I just saw someone react today. Coincidentally, saw someone react to YYZ from Snakes and Arrows, and it was slowish. So you might be
It was
right.
good though.
Yeah, everything
Good.
did seem
Yeah.
slowed down. Yeah.
I think circumstances for the better. Actually, I agree.
Yeah.
Agree with Rob.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Good pick, Ralph.
I have to go with La Via Strangiato. I mean, it's great live. All the versions are great. So if I had to pick one, I would go with the Pink Pop from the
Oh yeah.
Spears
Yeah.
40th reunion or anniversary. I was just listening to it recently, trying to figure out which version, and that just seemed the most purest towards the album. It's amazing. Later they kind of put some jokes in there, and which are great. I love them, but I thought that was the most pure version and just the raw playing that they did.
Oh, Ralph, you beat me to the punch. I was going to bring that one up too. I have to change my
Yeah.
choice now.
I have to go to number 7 on your list, right?
You're right.
It's going to
Yeah.
just drop.
Omar, number 3.
Yeah. So one thing I also wanted to do is try not to pick songs from the same tour. It's really hard to do,
Mhm.
but I ended up doing it. So my number 3 pick is actually War Paint from the Presto tour. And War Paint, the part of the Presto tour appeared in the Time Stand Still DVD, which is a real treat because I mean they were playing phenomenally there. But War Paint is a song I've never liked, like from the beginning. I just could not get into the song until I saw that version on Time Stand Still when they included it as a bonus from that tour. I did not know they played that song live. But when I saw it, it's like, wow. So if you don't like a Rush song, if they played it live, watch it live. It just changes your perception of the song. It was really dynamic. They played, and it's hard to do their songs are hard to duplicate live, as any tribute band will tell you. But it was just on point, and it sounded really good. And so definitely War Paint live. I prefer over the studio version.
Well, it's funny you say that, Omar, because in the Game of Snakes and Arrows documentary, the band stated that, the songs on Snakes and Arrows were meant to kind of take on a new life done live. And I think that also applies to probably a majority of their catalog, because
Yep.
They really do. They're not just
That's why this
carbon
is so
copies
hard to
live,
do. This is so
Yeah.
hard to do. Really hard.
That's a good choice. Cool. Nick?
Yeah, War Paint. I didn't feel like a Rush song until I watched the bootleg with the video, the girl in the mirror and the dude, the spinning thing in the plane. Then I was like, oh, that's a Rush song. Like 100%. Couldn't agree with you more on that. So Presto album as a whole, to be honest, never really liked it until a couple years ago when I started watching the live stuff. Love that album now, except certain songs. Okay, so for my number 3 one, I gotta go with a really special version, I think, of a song. I'm going with Closer to the Heart from Exit Stage Left. I love the electric. I love Close to the Heart intro on the electric as opposed to not like it's not even like it's an electric guitar, but it's so like I don't know how to describe the intro to it, but it's just so atmospheric, and I can picture an early summer concert outdoors, this song coming on back in the day, and it's perfect. So it's my favorite version.
Cool. Let's go through it 4 time. Paul?
Well, I was going to pick La Villa, but Ralph beat me to it. So I'll drop that down the list and think went up on the fly. But then you were talking about Exit Stage Left, and I guess for me, Bruins Bane going into the trees, that combination
Okay, yeah.
I just love how it transitions from like just listening to Bruins Bane. It's just hypnotizing, to hear Alex do that, and all of a sudden it transitions into the trees, and the trees has always been one of my favorite songs. So I mean that I find that version just awesome. And like Ralph, Exit Stage Left was the album that really kind of got me into the band. So every time I hear that version, it just brings me back to 30 years ago when I first heard them. Right. So that's my new fourth pick. Courtesy of Ralph.
But I could help. Right? Yep.
Yeah, no worries. It's all good.
For my fourth, I'm gonna piggyback off of Rob, where he mentioned anime earlier from R30. So anime from R30, I just love how whenever I listen to this, like in the car or whatever, I always mimic how Getty introduces these songs. Like I just say it to myself. I don't know, it's just habit. So he comes out and he says, "Hello, Frankfurt," because it was played in Frankfurt. R30 was. So I just love that. I literally wrote down it's slowed down slightly, which is what you mentioned, Rob. I think R30 was one of the last times that Getty really sounds great. I think on Snakes and Arrows and Time Machine he sounds good, and it progressively goes downhill. But I think the last time he sounded great was on R30. And just the build up to the guitar solo and the solo itself here on Anime Live on R30, Alex just absolutely kills it. At the very end, he just whammy bars, just wanks out on that whammy bar, just like crazy. And I just love it. It just gives me chills. And the last thing I want to mention, Getty at the end, he's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah," and then that just rings out throughout the arena. So echoes out. I just love Anime from R30. Similar to Presto, I prefer this just very slightly over the studio version because the studio version's top 10 Rush song for me. But yeah, that's my fourth. Rob?
All right, number 4. I picked 2112 off of Different Stages. So as Omar pointed out, I was trying to steer away from doing the same tours, but it's like, it's impossible. I couldn't do it.
You like what you like, man.
That's it. And I was at the tour, I saw that show, and it's like hearing that whole thing. I never heard the whole thing live before. And like, again, lower tunings, just more modern sounding. And then the improv that Alex does for Discovery was like, oh man, it's just killer. So there you go.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Ralph?
Number 4 is Dreamline from the Clockwork Angels tour with the strings. It's a rocking song, really pops with the do do do. And the strings were just added amazing. I just thought it made it so much better. What's that song? Right?
Which song did you say? I'm sorry.
Dreamline.
Oh. Oh yeah.
From Clockwork Angels.
From Clockwork Angels.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, that rocked for sure. Great pick. That's a
very good.
Yeah. You really dove deep for that one. That was a really good pick. Cool. Omar.
Yeah, so for my number 4, I went back to the Grace Under Pressure tour. I just love the energy of the guys. I think they could not play anything, no wrong note sung or played during that time. Distant Early Warning from the Grace Under Pressure tour. I really liked the version of the studio. It was great song, but they knocked it out of the park in the Grace Under Pressure DVD. I mean, they just hitting those notes really hard, playing aggressively. I mean, that to me is the way that song should be played. And there are other really good versions afterwards too. But I just think that they nailed it on that tour, at least on the DVD that was presented. So Distant Early Warning on the Grace Under Pressure tour.
Yep, good pick.
Yeah,
can't go wrong with anything on that Grace Under Pressure tour.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, number 4.
Yeah, so my number 2 that I was going to go with, I actually just omitted because I realized that it might be the one Rush song I prefer the recorded version over any live version. That's Subdivisions. I was going to say a show of hands because I do love it, but I can't put it on here because I actually like the recorded version better. So I'm going to omit that. We're going way back. I like 2112, All the World's a Stage. I love how the transition from Lakeside Park into 2112. I know it was recorded at Massey Hall. Is that right? Massey Hall, I got that right.
So.
Yeah.
Massey Hall in Toronto, yeah.
Yep. But to me, it always sounded like it was at like a fairground. You know, the whole concert always sounded like it could have been at the county fair. And I think back to the 70s. I do love me some 70s Rush. And shout out to Tim. And yeah, so yeah, 2112, and really that whole concert live recording is really underrated, in my opinion.
Yeah, cool. Another good pick.
I'm kind of surprised that no one's brought up a song from All the World's a Stage until now.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I was thinking the same thing.
Because there's some great versions of some
Ralph's
great tunes
got
there.
it behind him there.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the best version of In the End, I mean, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true.
Of course, I think it's the only version.
Yeah. That's fair.
No, Exit Stage left DVD. There's the
DVD,
short version.
okay.
There we go. All right, sorry.
All right, let's go through one last time, Paul.
All right, well, this one's it's one of my all-time favorites. They played it earlier on in their career, and then for whatever reason, they parked it until R40. For some reason, I saw Geddy do an interview, and he said it wasn't one of his favorites to play. And it's Jacob's Ladder. And for some reason, the fans wanted it, so they brought it back for R40. Now, which version do I like better between Exit Stage Left and R40? Yeah, it's hard because Exit Stage Left is a great version. But I was at the R40 show in Boston, and just sentimental value, just sitting there watching them play that and just being in the moment. My wife looking at me going, "What is wrong with you?" Like, be quiet, be quiet. And it's like I'm enjoying the moment. She's not a Rush fan, but she got me tickets for my 40th birthday, and she took me to the R40 show. So, yeah, I think that's, and I think it's just great to have they brought that song for the show for the R40 tour.
Hell yeah!
Never forget it.
I got a nice little segue because I'm going with R40 as well. For my number 5, I'm going with a sentimental one as well, and that's How It Is from R40. So I don't know why, but this song just makes me think of R40 for some reason. Maybe because it's like the menu song on the R40 DVD. If you put in the DVD, you'll hear the intro to How It Is like on repeat. But it just makes me think of R40 despite my negative experience during this song at the show in New Jersey where I was told to sit down during the song. Yeah, I've told that story a couple times. Some guy behind me told me, sit down. I'm like, dude, it's how it is. Do you not understand this moment? What's going on right now? But I was watching it earlier. I watched this and I watched Presto earlier. But it just gives me chills watching it because it brings me right back to that moment the last time I saw Rush. It chokes me up a little bit in a way. And Geddy's little bass solo that he does right before the foot upon the stair, shoulder to the wheel lyric. And the last thing I want to say is during Cinema Strangiato, the recent one, a couple months ago, this is 2021, September 2021, they did not include How It Is. They included One Little Victory. And I wasn't even mad. I was just sad. Because I wanted to relive my R40 live experience because of how much I love this song, and it wasn't included. And you might know Pat, my buddy Pat. I turned around and looked at Pat, and he knew exactly why I turned around and looked at him because he could see how sad I was that they didn't include that. But I love this version. Probably my favorite live version of any Rush song. How It Is.
You wanted to see it without someone telling you to sit down.
That's probably true. It's probably
You
true.
could have just told the guy, hey, I'm going to stand up. That's how it is, all right? So leave me alone.
That's how it is. Good point. All right. Rob, number 5.
All right. Mine is Close to the Heart. And I'm going back to the Exit Stage Left version of that. I just, it was such a young song back then, and just Geddy, just kind of belting it out, back in those days. It was great to hear it. And then I think after that, it wasn't played as often. And I got to see it on MTV when they used to have the MTV live concerts on TV, so you can watch it. And then getting it on DVD was fantastic to see it again. So that's my number 5.
Cool. Ralph?
Well, when I first heard the subject, I thought this is so hard, like how to, prefer the studio over the live albums. And then the first one that popped in my head was In the Mood.
Yeah.
It's, the album version, juvenile lyrics aside, it's got a cool riff. And when they did it live with Neil on the drums and whatever kind of beat he's doing, I don't even know. But I thought that was just, so much fun, always in the encore that they had. And I guess my version would be the Grace Under Pressure tour. So I don't know if that's the last time they did it, but that was certainly a good version. Right?
Yeah.
The way they ended the show.
Right.
The flurry at the end. Awesome.
Yeah.
They did that the entire 80s. Within
Yeah.
that ended like almost every one of their shows except when they did Villa in the early 80s. So,
Yeah, they did it a lot. Right.
Yeah. Cool. That's a good pick too. Omar, number 5.
Yeah, so my number 5 is, I'll keep it brief. There's a little story behind it too, but it's Earthshine from the Vapor Trails tour. That's the tour in Rush in Rio. When it came out on the studio, it was the original mix, which I'm not crazy about. I like the remix much better. But when I saw it on Rush in Rio, Neil's drumming made more sense the way he played it live than he played it in the studio. It was more complicated in the studio than he did it live, but it sounds better live the way he's playing. And it's the drumming that stands out more to me. Even though I love the song in general, it's a great song. I just think that live version from that tour is the best version of that song. And what I was going to say is I saw they played it in the R30 tour. I saw him in West Palm Beach. And actually the end of the song where Neil does that double bass drum twice, like that, either his pedal broke or the mic stopped because it was not there. There was no bass drum for the end of that song. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's my favorite part of the song. I couldn't hear him do that. And the bass drum didn't sound the same for the rest of the show. You could hear it later. They fixed whatever it was, but it was a bummer. But from Earthshine from the Vapor Trails tour is my favorite live version of that song. I like it better than the studio.
It was more than likely a microphone that went haywire on the song, right?
Yeah, probably. I'm still bummed to this day about that.
Nick, so you ranked them? Is this your very favorite or?
Yeah, but so I'm set. Perfect segue from Omar. I'm so glad you brought up Earthshine and Rio. So I literally just wrote Rio for my number 1 and was like, well, now I have to figure out which song is my favorite because there's a few songs I do like live versions on other albums better. But I mean, my God, that album, like I put that album on when I go ride my bike, when I'm going to do some distance running, when I'm lifting. So I was trying to figure out, and I came down to 2. The one that I finally eliminated was Tom Sawyer. The most generic of generic Rush songs. It's the only version I don't skip when Tom Sawyer comes on. I love the crowd when you hear that moment where they're like all excited because like Rush comes and then like there's like this like they all inhale and try to sing but they can't with Geddy when he first sings because they're like, oh my God, they're actually here. And then when Alex finally comes in the guitar, they let it out and are like, yes, now we can celebrate. I love it. But my favorite from that is Working Man. I love Working Man from that album. It gets me so hyped every time it comes on. I love Neil's drumming on it. I love how deep and heavy every single note sounds on that song. I love Geddy on that. It's perfect. I love the ending of it. I love how great the guitar solo. I love hearing that crowd just so. And it segues from Cygnus perfectly. I mean, yeah, but Rio as a whole, just, yeah. Rio is my number one, but we're going to go with Working Man for the song.
The crowd's energy just brings that album to a whole new level, right?
Yeah, that's a live album. That's the other live albums are recordings from their tour. That's a live album. That's what a live album's supposed to sound like.
Right.
So
That's a good point.
All right, so the last thing I want to do here before we wrap is two things, actually. A couple other ones came in while we were discussing on the Twitter machine, and they are Resist from Rio Acoustic, and that was from Rachel. And then Taylor says Bangkok on the Snakes and Arrows tour, arguably better than the studio version. So another couple good ones. The last thing I wanted to do was just, are there any that haven't been mentioned yet that we think need to be brought up? I said, let's just throw them at each other. Let's just, take a few minutes and just throw some other ideas at each other.
Well, I have one. Another thing I wanted to do is try to keep them to like actual releases. But
I tried to do that too. But
since this is a bonus, I'm gonna go off the beaten path a little bit. Where's My Thing from the Roll the Bones tour? Not from Clockwork Angels, from Roll the Bones. So if you look up Where's My Thing live from Roll the Bones, I mean, Alex is playing out of his mind, the solo there, like one of his best solos ever of any. And, it's an extend, they extend it. But, when I heard it live, I heard it on Roll the Bones. I loved it because, finally another instrumental. Hadn't had one for a while. But then I actually went to that tour and I saw them and I was blown away. I mean, like just the sound of the arena and the heavy bass and the drumming and the guitar playing, the extended solo. It's one of my favorite instrumentals because of that tour, actually, because of the way they played it. So, and actually I did a video on Alex, how he's shouldn't be underrated. I included some links to a couple of those performances because it's definitely worth hearing. And I hope they release something live officially from that tour because
I have not seen that one. I'll have to check it out.
You need to check it out. I mean, it's audio. It's not video, but it's a video on YouTube, but it's just audio. Yeah. It's just it's fantastic. You guys got to hear Where's My Thing from the Roll the Bones tour.
Check that
a few that I wanted to mention that weren't brought up were Working Man from the Time Machine tour. I mean, Alex just goes crazy, and the funky intro and all that. La Villa Stringiato from Rio. I know Nick mentioned just all of Rio, but La Villa in Rio with the Alex rant and everything. Beneath, Between, and Behind from Exit Stage Left.
Yeah,
definitely
condensed version, but awesome. And then I kept all mine to just CDs. I didn't even include the DVDs. I tried to keep it to just CD releases. But the one that would be right near the top for me is Prime Mover, which was DVD only on a show of hands. It wasn't actually on the CD release. So it's out there, but it was not put on the CD, unfortunately, and it's only on video.
You got to go with, you know what? That's a good one. You also got to bring up Lock and Key, too, on the DVD, a Show of Hands DVD.
Yeah.
See, that was a bonus, I think, on something. I don't think that was actually even on the DVD.
It was on the DVD.
Laserdisc.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. Laserdisc. Yeah, that's true, too. Yep. That's really good. Any other ones that anyone wants to mention before we wrap?
I want to mention that I wish they would have done some of those songs they did off of Clockwork Angels, not off the album, but off the tour, back with a string ensemble sooner. I love YYZ with that string ensemble, and I love I love all those songs, the string ensemble. I just think that Clockwork Angels tour, Geddy's voice was.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, So
Middletown Dreams was really good on Clockwork too. That was good. A popular one. Mission too. That's the other was the Mission from a Show of Hands. I actually think someone said that on Twitter.
And Territories from a Show of Hands too. Awesome.
Real
better
quick.
Than the studio. Yeah.
Real quick, I think we should all go around and say one song that we absolutely don't think sounds
You want to do the
sounds
opposite.
better live. Yeah, just one
Okay,
song
why
that
not?
we think is not good live.
Sure, let's do it.
Start with Paul and go in the order we went before.
Oh no pressure now. I don't know what to think.
Yeah.
Someone go ahead of me. I got to think about this one. Jeez. A song that's better. A song that the studio version is better than the live version.
Yeah, like, absolutely, not just because you know what I mean.
Not just okay, so.
But like was actually not that good live.
I don't know about not. It's not the one I have. Some of you might kill me, but I don't like any version live of Animate better than the studio version. Like to me, the studio version of Animate is the best version of that song.
I agree with that.
What every time they played it live, except for one tour, I don't remember which one, they slowed it down a little bit. And I think it actually sounds better at the speed that they recorded it in the studio. Just a speed thing for me. I think it's just, they nailed how fast it should be played on the studio.
Right, I'll give you one. The Larger Bowl from the Snakes and Arrows tour. I like the studio version way better. Now, I don't know why. I just prefer it, and Armor and Sword too. Like, it's funny because the band literally said these songs are supposed to be played live. I just prefer the studio. I think Snakes and Arrows is absolute gold. I mean, I think people need to go back and actually give it a chance. But
I think that's partly because I personally think the recording quality is better in the later albums than the early albums. So,
another one that came to mind was. It was one of my favorite Rush songs is Grand Designs. I mean, I was thrilled to have seen it live 3 times in the Clockwork Angel store, and that was one of the songs that I got so pumped for. And like, I still listen to it for the sentimental value and, you know, let's get to it. This is Grand Designs and all that. It just gets me pumped. But the version is just, it doesn't come close to the studio version for me. So
I actually thought of a song, and it might not be popular for some people. I mean, it's they brought it for R40. It's losing it. I mean, it's the song at the point when it was released on singles. We're talking over 30 years before they never. I don't think they had ever played it live, and you know they brought it out, and it was like, oh, it's great to hear. But I was like,
yeah, the studio was better. I think
it just sounded like they were rusty on it. Like nothing against the boys, but they just didn't sound. And I mean, at this point, like I said, Geddy's voice isn't the same, and you know, just a lot of things. But it just now, I didn't see it live in Boston. They didn't play in Boston, but they played it only on certain venues on the R40 tour, right? So,
yeah, I was fortunate enough to see it. You too, Ralph, right? You were there?
I did not see it live.
Oh, you saw it in Philly. You saw R40 in Philly.
Right.
I only heard it live.
Jersey, yeah.
I only heard it live in Atlanta. They played it, you know, practicing
sound check or something.
Sound check. They sound checked it, but they didn't play it in the show that I saw in Atlanta. So
interesting.
At least I heard it.
Yeah. At least, cool. Well, Paul, you might get some negative comments for that one. I happen to agree, so I will back Paul up. But yeah, well,
don't get me wrong. It's a great song. And when they brought it out, I was just like, oh my gosh, you know, like
it's the shock factor and the sentimental value,
and that's why I was like, do I want to talk about this one now? Like, you know,
I'm even going to be sacrilegious and say it was Neil who played the worst on that song of the 3. That's what I think, and he's my favorite member. Yeah.
No. Same here. I'm not gonna argue on that one.
I can explain it in a video, but
yeah, we'll save that one.
Yeah, I'll save that one.
All right.
Get a lot of hate, a lot of thumbs down for that one.
we can. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
No, you know, honestly, I just want to say that you know, I posted that idea that we should all give one, and I can't.
That's all we wanted to say.
I'm sorry. Well, no, because I legitimately am sitting here trying to think.
Get out of here.
All right, hold on. What's one? Because I couldn't. Well, you know what? I will say this.
You said subdivisions, right?
There are several. Yeah, that's true. There are several songs that I didn't necessarily think were better live. It's just I couldn't pinpoint one that I want to point out. I will say I don't think that the live versions of the Clockwork Angel songs were better than the studio.
Yeah, I agree for the most part.
And I'm gonna say something a little sacrilegious too, Omar. I got you on this, and Paul. We'll direct the fans' hate my way, okay? I think they did a lot of editing and gave a lot of help to Geddy's voice on the Clockwork Angel studio recording.
On the studio, yeah, maybe.
I think they gave a lot of help because
Yeah,
his voice the last couple tours. Yeah.
No, I'll tell you what I think about that.
Mm.
I know where you're going with that, but I think Geddy sings better in the studio because he's not singing a whole concert. It's just one song, so he can focus on getting it right.
yeah, and they're probably
I'm not
doing it in
sure
parts
they're-
and different days and
For
everything.
sure.
Yeah, so like
I get what you're saying.
he has to like stretch his voice out over a series of dates. But I think in the studio, you know, he has time to get it right, get his voice right for that one song. So,
Right.
but there is truth to what you say, Nick, definitely. Yeah.
Well, all right, we can wrap there. Those who've finished, stuck it out with us here to the end, please leave, rush pun. Please leave some comments. Let us know which versions of songs, live versions of songs that you prefer to the studio versions of the same songs, and what tour or album or bootleg that they're on. If get as detailed as you want. So this was fun. We may end up doing a part 2 to this at some point down the line because this, I'm sure, is going to be a good topic, topic we can engage with our followers and fans. So leave a comment and we will see you on Rush Roundtable next week. Thanks everybody. Take care.